I'm Scotty D, and I'm going to tell you a story about how I came to be a guitar tech and the guitar that was involved and the people and the whole story. And of course, if you've been following my channel for a few years now, you know this isn't my first neck reset, but it was a guitar just like this one, a Stella, that was responsible. It was my first neck reset. And this one reminds me a lot of it, so I'm going to tell you all about it as we fix this baby. It's an early 60s Stella from Chi-Town, and the one I fixed and worked on and got me all started in this restoration career, I'll show you a picture here, was from later in the 60s or maybe even 1970. Well, let's have a look at this real quick and then I'll start telling you all about it. So these guitars are made of solid birch wood, which is more common like the wood you would see on an entry door in an office. Those are birchwood doors. Those are hollow core doors that you see all the time. You're going to walk through them at the school or something. and painted sound hole, painted bindings. This one's had a fingerboard and a neck reset. Fingerboard replaced, neck reset, new bridge put in, and unfortunately it has the original tuners, which are shit. But we'll deal with them for this repair. This guitar has normal action at the 12th fret on the bass side, but it's exactly the same height on the treble side. And I told him what I think we should do is shave this bridge down on the treble side. Just take a little wood off, and likewise, same thing with the saddle, and just, tilt it. These normally came with like dyed poplar fretboards a lot of times, and they crumble and they need replaced. So this is a nice ebony board. I noticed this one's not glued down up here. My customer who drove it up here said he did the work, but he didn't realize this needed to be glued down, and I told him, yeah, it's kind of like a brace to this fretboard extension. It's structurally important to glue that baby down. It needs a little wedge put in. There's a gap. We'll do that. But the main thing is the neck and the playability up here at the 5th fret. Let's look at that. The Harpeth Stella is the one I'm going to refer to as the 1970 version. Had a truss rod cover up here. It said made in the USA. It was white. And I don't know, this one doesn't have an adjustable truss rod, but it does have a steel reinforced neck. That's a rubberized magnet. So we know it's got a chunk of steel in there, but it's really, really warped. This neck has Well, I'll get to work on this old Stella by measuring the neck relief here at the 7th fret. We've got 28 thousandths of an inch of relief, which is making it feel awful stiff, even though he keeps it tuned to C sharp. And at this point it had 10s on it, but I pulled those strings off, and even without the strings on it, it still has around 20 thousandths of an inch relief. So this shot, you can kind of see that there's a poplar, the neck is made of poplar wood. Well, that's never good. It's a good thing it has a steel rod inside. The thickness of the fretboard is 1/4 of an inch, pretty much, 6.5 millimeters. It'll have more like 5.5 millimeters thickness at the nut when I'm through with it. So as the story goes, I was living in Haywood County, North Carolina, and I was in my late 30s. I joined a band called Back Pages, led by Mike Mahaffey of Cincinnati, Ohio, and Paul Quick from Waco, Texas. We all lived in the Asheville area, and I was the bassist in the band. We played classic rock oldies by the Kinks, the Beatles, the Animals, the Who, and every other band that starts with the word "the." Well, in 2013, Mike and his partner Alice moved back to Ohio to take care of Mike's aging parents. Alice was a nurse before she retired in 2000. Mike wanted me to take the Stella and perhaps fix it up someday. He knew that I liked to work on guitars, and he's seen how I'd fixed up my own collection, such like that. So he just thought, maybe one of these days you'd like to fix it up, and I don't want to drag it around with me anymore because it was in a big heap. The headstock was broken off, and it was split straight through one of the, I think it was the treble side that was broke off, and it split straight through the headstock logo. The bridge was missing. The top had several cracks in it, and I would soon to find out that the neck would need reset if Stella had a chance of being a player. Mike Mahaffey passed away of congenital heart failure in 2017, and by that time I had already moved to Nashville and was working at the university, but I was fixing guitars as a hobby. I would find electric guitars like Les Paul Juniors and TV yellow type guitars on Facebook Marketplace. I'd fix them up and I'd, tag on a couple $100 and sell them on Reverb and maybe make a buck or two, maybe not. But I was having a lot of fun doing that in my spare time, and I thought, since Mike passed away and I was thinking about him a lot, I would commit myself to restoring the old Stella. So after completion of all the repairs, I got some strings on it, and I was quick to find out that old thing needed a neck reset, and bad. I checked my Guitar Player's Repair Guide by Dan Earlywine. There's a small section at the back of the second to last chapter, I think. There's no detailed information about how to do a neck reset. And at that time, on YouTube, in 2017, there was not a lot of videos on neck resets. I think I saw one by Dave's World of Fun Stuff, and a couple more. I got the idea that I needed to get a steamer, so I got one of those fabric and steamers, the type of one that you would also do like cleaning with. It comes with a couple brush ends to it. It's like $25 on eBay. I ordered that, and meanwhile I used an old clothing iron and a spatula to heat and loosen the fretboard extension from the soundboard. Once the steamer came in, I attached a transmission hose from the auto parts store and a basketball needle for pumping up basketballs. And I got some steam to come out the end, and drilled a couple holes through the 15th fret. After I pulled the fret, drilled a couple holes through the fretboard at the 15th fret slot, and the drill bit went right through. I could tell there was an empty pocket there, like they said that I would find, and I started steaming it. I wiggled it a little bit, and voila, the neck came off. No problemo. It wasn't attached very well in that case. So I want to say, one of the guys I found on there was John Hall at Blues Creek Guitars in Pennsylvania. He had a few videos out, and I see him once in a while too on YouTube still, which is kind of cool because he's been doing it for a while, and some of his videos were real helpful. So I glued it back together, and I got the strings back on, and lo and behold, after playing it just for a little while, a few days or whatever, I decided that the neck was just too gargantuan for me. I play 12-string acoustic guitars and electric guitars in the band or just at home in the studio, and they've never had a neck this large. I mean, that neck on that thing was a log. So I decided to put it up for sale on Reverb, and I found a buyer. I think it was a fella in New Hampshire or Vermont. He was looking for a guitar with a huge neck, and he bought it from me. And this is where the story goes sideways. I didn't pack it real well, and I shipped it in a soft case. Well, it got smashed by UPS. He called me up when he got the guitar and unpacked it and said, "Man, we're going to have to send it back to you. It really got smashed up." Sent me some pictures and all that. So I paid for the return shipping.
and I had this discussion with Reverb. I did have the insurance on it. I made a claim, and they offered to have me send it back to Chicago, and they'd give me the full price of it, or they could repair. They also asked me to go around town and get a couple quotes from a couple other repair shops in town, and that's when I found out that they would do the glue up, but they wouldn't repaint it for me. And one of the guys looked at me and said, "You might need a restoration guy." And I thought to myself, man, I think I might be that guy. I think I might like to open up my own shop one day, because there aren't a lot of shops over here on the west side of Nashville. Well, the buyer said, if you get it all fixed up, back up for me, and you do a couple extra things and list it again, I'll buy it back from you and I'll pay you extra for the extra work. And I was like, no way. He even asked me to find a hard case for it, which I found on Facebook Marketplace, and I included that in the sale, and he bought it. I shipped it back to him. I made a little extra money, and things were looking good. I decided I think I will open up a business over here in West Nashville. I was thinking about names for the business. Maybe I didn't want to name it after me. You know, I'm trying to work on ego deflation. For once in my life, I had always played in bands, and I was always looking for that validation, you know. I was always looking for people to recognize me, and, you know, the band and the guitar playing and the singing and all that stuff. And I thought, man, I'm going to start this business, and I'm not going to focus on me at all. I'm just going to focus on the guitars and the work and the customers. And so I named it Harpeth after the river that runs through the west side of Nashville, Franklin, out into Kingston Springs. It's over here on the west side. I figured that anybody that saw my Google listing and my Google Maps business listing, that they'd know where I was pretty much by the name before they even clicked on the address. So that's the story. That was my first neck reset, and now I'm on about neck reset 60. I've been in business for 6 years, and I've gotten a lot of business from YouTube. I never really thought that YouTube would be a source of income as far as customers bringing me stuff because they saw me working on YouTube. But it's been a real pleasure. And of course, it's always a pleasure to hear you guys' comments. So feel free to comment on all that. Let me know if you've ever come across one of these Stella 12-string guitars and how big those necks are. I did manage to get that neck relief down to dead flat with no string tension. I wasn't really shooting for a back bow. I want it to pull into some kind of relief once we get the strings on there and get it up to tension. So right now I'm gonna stick this little wedge or shim onto this block of MDF and create a wedge shape, kind of shave it down. I'm just going to use sandpaper. Just put a little accelerator on there and hold it down for a few seconds, and I should be able to sand freely without worries of it sliding off. Once I'm finished sanding it, I can get it off the tape with a little bit of acetone and a small spatula. I used some power sanders out in the garage momentarily here. Kind of gave me a head start on it. Now I'm going to paint the edge of it, since this maple is a little different color than the ebony. This is a black-brown Mohawk pen. Probably not black enough, so I'll chase behind it with a black Sharpie pen. After the black Sharpie, I'm going to go over top of it with some Glue Boost Ultra Thin Fill and Finish and some Accelerator. Because when the glue hits that black line, it could make the ink run. Water-based glue. I'm going to use fish glue to get underneath that fretboard extension. The feeler gauges are kind of prying the space open a skosh. So I'm going to pull the feeler gauges out in a second, but first I'm going to get a little more glue behind the wedge. There's a little space that doesn't have any glue, kind of in between the 12th fret. Oh, earlier I was describing the 14th fret or whatever. I think these guitars only have 12 frets to the body. So I actually pulled the 13th fret when I was doing the neck reset, neck pull. All right, I got the glue in there and I put a little caul underneath those cam clamps and a bunch of fish glue squeezed out, so I know I've got a good clamping going on here. I'll clean with a paper towel and a little bit of warm water and let her sit overnight. Next day here, we'll take the clamps off and we'll finish off the frets. Stella! Now the arduous task of putting the 12 strings back on a slotted peg head. Not the funnest job in the world if you're a luthier. Now that I've changed the pitch of the neck, the action's a little too low on the bass side strings at the 12th fret. So these nuts, or these saddle slots, are extra deep. I'm going to clean them out. I always clean them out with the nut and saddle slotting files before I vacuum and clean with naphtha. So we vacuum it up. I also clean it with naphtha on a paper towel and a little feeler gauge before I put in the nut rescue powder. This is the beige, or I guess aged bone powder. I get this from, you can get it from Music City Bridge, or you can get it from StewMac. I use the StewMac number 10 water thin super glue. I chase behind the super glue with a little bit of Glue Boost non-blushing glue dry accelerator. Once, twice, 3 times with Glue Boost. There's also the StewMac accelerator. May as well hit it 4 times. Now I'll go ahead and make sure the bottom of the saddle slot is rounded. This should let the string set a little bit higher. I'll do the same thing for the A string. These are still the old strings. Okay, now over here at the other end, since I took off so much material, the nut's too high. So we'll go ahead and I'm going to pull the nut. There's a kind of a gap between the end of the fretboard and the nut. There's some missing material on the nut. I'm going to fill it in and glue it into place when I get it back in here. All right. We're rounding second plate here. We're almost to third base. I'm ready to put on the new strings. Well, we need to re-crown and polish the frets. The scale length on this fretboard is 25.5, like a Fender Strat. I don't know if that was the original scale length on these things. I can't remember. But it's kind of nice because the Music Nomad fret shield helps me protect the ebony wood. I just get the crowning started by doing about 3 swipes per side with my triangle file, and then I go ahead with 220 grit sandpaper all the way up through 2000. A little bit of Scotch Brite pads in between. I do the maroon, and then later on I do the gray. But wait, before I go too much further, right around 220 grit, I realized I hadn't softened the bevels. Sometimes when you level the frets, you need to soften the bevels. This is the gray, Scotch Brite gray. I do that between the 1000 grit and 1200 grit. Then again, I'll all the way up through 2000 grit sandpaper, and then 4/0 steel wool. I use a little naphtha to clean. Once that dries, I use a little lemon oil. That cool, refreshing drink. Lemon oil. Get some today. Or just use mineral oil. That's what some people use. All right, right at the end here, I realized he's given me some 12 gauge strings, 12 through 52. That's a surprise. I still don't think I would have filed it or planed in a back bow. This neck's going to pull into about 6/1000ths of an inch relief with 12s.
She plays so nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link up here on the screen. If you want to check out the original Harpeth Stella, take a look at that video. It's one of the very first YouTube videos I ever did, and it was when I was posting the ad or the listing on Reverb. I needed a video to go with it so that, the buyers could check out the sound of it. You can give that a listen. It sounds the same as this one. They've got a good bluesy sound, good for slide, maybe right, well, he's got 2 guitars in here for me to work on. The other one needs a whole bunch of work, so this one's going to be ready for him when he gets here. It's just going to be sitting around waiting for a month or 2 because it's going to take a while on that other one. Thanks for tuning in and hanging out with me today. Hope to see you guys next week. Catch you later.